All right, let's just jump right into this explainer by looking at a hypothetical, but honestly an incredibly common scenario. Meet Sarah. She's 32 years old, makes $90,000 a year, has absolutely zero debt, and basically did everything right. I mean, she went to school, she worked hard, she saved her money, she followed the exact blueprint that we're all taught guarantees a stable, comfortable life.
So just last week, Sarah went to look at a standard, run-of-the-mill two-bedroom house in Texas. She was fully expecting to finally buy her piece of the American dream, and you'd think, right? With a $90,000 salary and a completely clean financial slate, she's the ideal candidate for homeownership. This is literally the moment she's been preparing for her entire adult life. Well, the price tag on that standard two-bedroom was a staggering $980,000. Yeah. When Sarah saw that number, she laughed, and then she cried. And honestly, it's hard to blame her, because the source data we're diving into today suggests that the traditional American dream is effectively dead in 2026. The numbers simply do not work anymore.
Let's move into Section 1, the million-dollar milestone, the math behind the crisis.
To really wrap our heads around the scale of this shift, consider this. For the first time in history, the average home price in America breached the seven-figure mark, hitting a staggering $1,020,000. Think about that for a second. That is a massive, totally unprecedented leap from just $320,000 back in 2020. In exactly 6 years, the cost of standard shelter has completely detached from reality.
And this right here, this brilliantly illustrates the real disconnect. While housing prices tripled, skyrocketing by 300% over that 6-year period, average salaries only went up a mere 18%. This gap is the entire crisis visualized. It really doesn't matter how hard you work or how many promotions you get if your purchasing power is being eclipsed this severely.
Let's actually crunch the math on this together, because it's wild. To afford a $1 million house, you generally need a $200,000 down payment. At current rates, your monthly mortgage is going to be about $7,500. To comfortably afford that without drowning, you need to earn around $300,000 a year. But the average American makes $62,000. So if you make an average salary, you'd have to work 16 years just to save the down payment alone. Not pay off the house, mind you, just get the keys.
You know, the human toll of this math is just painfully real. Take David and Maria, a married couple from Florida. They diligently saved $80,000 over 4 years. Now, in 2024, that was a fantastic down payment. Today, they're entirely priced out of buying and are instead being forced by current market rates to pay $3,000 a month just to rent a basic one-bedroom apartment. They played by the rules, and the goalposts were moved to another stadium entirely.
Which brings us to Section 2, who broke the market? The three culprits. To understand how we got here so fast, we really need to neutrally examine the data from the source material regarding three major suspects locking an entire generation out of homeownership. That's the Federal Reserve, the home building industry, and Wall Street institutions. Each of these plays a distinct, heavy role in this perfect economic storm.
Culprit number one is interest rates. The Federal Reserve raised rates to fight off broader economic inflation, but the direct side effect was pushing mortgage rates to a blistering 9%. For the average buyer, that single move literally doubled their prospective monthly payment overnight. It turned formerly affordable homes into impossible financial burdens.
Culprit number 2 is a severe lack of supply. Builders are reporting that the cost of wood, labor, basically all materials, has become far too expensive to maintain normal construction volume. Because of this massive bottleneck, America built 40% fewer homes than we actually needed in 2025 just to keep up with population growth.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Reason 3, which fundamentally alters the playing field. Corporations and institutional investors bought 1 in every 4 houses sold last year. 25% of the inventory was scooped up by big companies, often paying entirely in cash, no mortgage required. And they aren't flipping them. They're renting them out forever, permanently removing that inventory from everyday buyers like you and me.
Okay, moving on to Section 3. Can the government fix it? Desperate countermeasures.
With an entire generation feeling locked out, lawmakers are officially scrambling. The proposed fixes on the table right now include new legislation called the First Home Act, which would offer a $25,000 credit for first-time buyers. At the local level, cities like Austin are taking extreme measures, trying to outright ban corporate buyers from specific neighborhoods. And at the federal level, there's a presidential promise to construct 2 million new homes to flood the market with supply. However, the data paints a pretty sobering picture about these fixes. Experts warn that timelines for these solutions stretch out at least 10 years to actually build those 2 million homes, and for the legislation to ripple through the market. By the time 2036 rolls around, projections indicate the average house might cost $1.5 million. That would completely wipe out the benefit of a $25,000 tax credit.
And because those institutional solutions are a decade away, we arrive at Section 4, Future Living, the radical evolution of home.
Everyday citizens are radically adapting to this broken market, evolving what it actually means to live in America. To understand this concept of future living, let's look at Jake. He's a 26-year-old software engineer living in California, commanding a $140,000 salary. 5 years ago, that kind of money meant a luxury apartment or a fast track to a suburban mortgage. Today, Jake still has to live in a converted garage with 4 roommates. When six-figure earners are trapped in student housing conditions, the paradigm of future living has officially shifted.
And because of this pressure cooker, alternative living arrangements aren't just quirky internet trends anymore. They are forced evolution. The data shows the adoption of van life has surged by an astronomical 300%. People are outfitting commercial vans and living out of them, and not for a weekend camping trip. It's because an $80,000 depreciating vehicle is suddenly the only affordable asset that provides a roof over their heads.
We are fundamentally redefining our communities. Extreme co-living spaces, where individuals share living quarters with up to 10 absolute strangers, is now considered a completely normal and permanent economic necessity for young professionals. We're seeing a real return to the boarding house lifestyle of the 19th century, and it is fundamentally shifting how modern society functions, how people date, and how they build families. You know, the ultimate tragedy of this transition is the death of an unspoken contract. The old American dream is pretty simple: work hard, buy a house, and start a family. But the new reality of future living has completely rewritten that contract into something far bleaker. Work hard, pay your rent, and simply pray your landlord doesn't raise it next year. The security of ownership has been totally replaced by the anxiety of perpetual leasing.
Ultimately, what this data shows us is that this crisis isn't just about lumber costs or interest rates. It's about a generation that feels like the entire economic game is fundamentally rigged against them. So, based on the numbers we've explored today, I have to ask you, do you think you'll ever own a home in America under these new rules? Or is renting forever, alongside